The Niger Delta Development Commission has come under scrutiny on the grounds of accountability. The commission has been in existence for 20 years, and indeed there are bound to be questions about how much has been done to improve the lives of the Niger Delta people and drive development in the region.
Crude oil from Nigeria's Niger Delta region accounts for over 80% of the federal government's revenue. But the oil wealth has come at a high price. The beauty of the Niger Delta's extensive mangrove forests, one of the largest in the world from a bird's eye view, contrasts with the reality below. Years of oil spills from oil and gas exploration by oil companies and bunkering by unemployed youth has damaged the environment, impoverishing predominantly farming and fishing communities. The Niger Delta Development Commission, established in 2000 by then-President Olusegun Obasanjo, exists to cater to the development needs of the Niger Delta more than ever before. These vulnerable populations now need support to survive the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak.
NDDC has actually responded very well to the crisis. At the beginning of it, we were able to support the states with money. Then after the support for the states, we also tried to give some form of palliative to the youth and women group and disabled, the widows, the orphans, and this was distributed across the 9 states. Then recently, with presidential approval, we've now entered another stage of support. The major part of it is medicals, which we're distributing to the states, and also some form of collaboration with NDDC to increase testing capacity, and palliatives, like a social stimulus, which food items are being distributed across the 9 states.
20 years down the line, the success of the mandate of facilitating rapid, even and sustainable development in the Niger Delta region is highly debated. The Commission's acting managing director admits to limitations in meeting its obligations.
The amount of money that's been poured in and the development are not commensurate, which means that some things have gone wrong. And but also the way I see it, the Commission is sort of configured not to function maximally. By 20 years of the existence of the NDDC, it should be that water, potable water, should be available to everybody in every community. Electricity should be available to most of the communities, if not all the communities. Then we can talk about roads, accessibility, or things like that. That's the way there are supposed to be some major fundamental things. When those things are there, healthcare, affordable and accessible healthcare. But the way things are, we do not know the difference between the responsibility of the local government, the responsibility of the state government, the responsibility of the federal government anymore. So the NDDC is doing what the local government should do, when the NDDC is supposed to be an intervention agency. So those are the problems that we're having.
NDDC's projects and programs are designed to respond to the socio-economic challenges in the Niger Delta region, a feature of corporate social responsibility.
Everything NDDC is, as far as I'm concerned, corporate social responsibility to the people of the region. And NDDC is saying, we want to look into your problems and find a solution, because it is our responsibility. It's corporate social responsibility. Everything the NDDC does is corporate social responsibility. However, how it does it needs to be fine-tuned, because a lot of times, as I said, the programs and the projects, the people need a buy-in. They need to own these projects, believe in the projects. If they believe in the projects and they buy into the projects, those projects will become sustainable. But if they don't believe in them and you give them a project, in the space of time, that project dies. So we need to carry the people along when these projects are being, first of all, when they are planned, and not just only when they have been implemented. So there needs to be like a change, which is what we're trying to drive.
The environmental damage done to the flora and fauna is one of the major problems in the Niger Delta. An assessment by the United Nations produced a report that recommended a cleanup of the region, specifically Ogoni land, that will cost $1 billion over a period of 25 to 30 years. The Commission is part of that cleanup project.
Of course, we all know that maybe because of some laxity in the laws of Nigeria, most of the oil companies get away with things that are not obtainable anywhere else in the world, because you cannot come to a community, devastate the community, and your workers have 24 hours light, your workers have very clean water, the communities there are degraded, their means of livelihood destroyed, there's no compensation, there's nothing to do with rehabilitation of the people, there's nothing to do with even remediation of the destroyed ecosystem and the environment. So these are things the NDDC alone cannot do it, does not have the funds to do it, but can assist. That's why I like the Ogoni cleanup program. They just won. We believe that the success of that program will make that program to spread across the Niger Delta. But there seems to be some slowdown in the project.
The reality of a region which contributes so much to Nigeria's revenue remaining underdeveloped begs the question of how the annual budgets are funded.
The 2019 budget that we are not able to implement, the contribution of the federal government was supposed to be 100 billion. That for the international oil companies was supposed to be 220 billion. But we've had difficulties, from what I've seen in the books, getting the oil companies to pay anything. And this was made even worse by the consultants that were gotten to interface and bring these funds, because everything just became monies to enter private pockets, and until this is streamlined and the oil companies are made, because at the beginning of the year when they have their budget, they're supposed to declare their budgets, and 3% of their budget is supposed to come to the NDDC. But even to get their budget has been very difficult. I heard NAPIMS is supposed to provide some of that information, and we're not getting that information. So we were planning to drive that before the lockdown came in. But we believe that even the National Assembly, part of its oversight functions of those committees should be to ask those oil companies, why have you not paid what you have done? It's part of the oversight functions of those companies to call them, to say, have you done what you're supposed to do? Your contributions to the Niger Delta Development Commission. But instead, it's how to probe the IMC that the committees are interested in.
The Niger Delta Development Commission's sole mandate of developing the oil-rich Niger Delta region of Nigeria places it in a position where its activities should transform the area into an economically prosperous and socially stable place. This way, the Commission will be fulfilling its purpose and help address inequalities that lead to agitations amongst the people.